Okay, there's something I want to say, and I don't have a lot of time. You can't teach books on the internet. This is what I've learned after 3 years of running an academic YouTube channel. You can teach on the internet. You can talk about books on the internet. I don't know if you can teach books on the internet. Now, I want to explain, I don't have a lot of time because today is my kids' end of year picnic at school. Phone's ringing. Okay, hold on. Hello. Hey. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Love you. Bye. Where were we? I thought I would spend 45 minutes just talking about books and teaching and the internet, YouTube and social media. And it's taken me a long time to get set up. I'm in a weird spot. This is not normally where I film. I got a closet in the background, sort of messy office stuff. I'm usually over there, but I had this window behind me. I was backlit. So I had to spend all this time setting up for a subpar setup. And the reason I did all that is because I've been meaning to make more videos and try to get back into the rhythm. I don't know if I was ever in the rhythm, but to try to get into the rhythm of putting out a YouTube video once a week is kind of ambitious, but that was sort of the idea. So I was, setting up for this video. The light was not working for me. I was running out of time and I was very close to giving up. I thought, you know what? It's just not today. Today's not the day. I'll do it tomorrow. But I thought, no, I will not do that. I want to get a video recorded at least. So back to teaching books on the internet. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Andrew Moore. I'm an associate professor of great books at St. Thomas University, and I run this YouTube channel that you're now watching. And I've been doing this YouTube thing for about 3 years. And the whole thing has been mostly like a pedagogical experiment. There's a $10 word, a teaching experiment. But I've run into this problem with teaching books. And this is sort of a hypothesis, but let me explain. So I make videos about, broadly speaking, literature and philosophy. That's my content. And one thing that I was noticing is that the videos I made on literature do not seem to do as well as the videos I make on philosophy. I do think there's something that's translatable about philosophical texts into a video that doesn't seem to apply to literary texts. And it's interesting because there's a lot of channels that do philosophy content and do it extremely well, right? There's a lot of really excellent philosophy channels. But then on the literature side, I haven't, figured out how to crack that code, and I'm not sure it's crackable because, there's BookTube, and so a place where people will talk about books, and that's sort of more like a book club vibe. But in terms of analyses of literature, those seem to be harder to come by. It strikes me as a difficult problem to talk about books. You can talk about ideas. I think ideas are easy to talk about on YouTube and to share on YouTube and debate on YouTube, but talking about books is pretty tricky. And it's largely because I think, it requires that the audience has read the book, which isn't a given. And then also that they come to it with an understanding of how you approach a book, like the same premises that you have. And that's not a given. Like the way that English teachers approach Hamlet or Macbeth in different schools, in different cities, in different countries might vary wildly. Like what you are doing in a classroom with Hamlet, I suspect it might be very, very different depending on the context. And if that's the case, it means that the needs of audiences, what they need out of a video on Hamlet or a video essay on Homer or something, those needs are going to be very, very different. So this literature and philosophy thing, it's interesting to me because it relates back to something about me and about my career. And also it ties into what this channel is and what I'm trying to do. So I am a very weird academic. It's a weird thing to say. I am I am an atypical, let's say that. The way in which I am atypical is that I have an interdisciplinary background, which is maybe not that uncommon, but it's pretty well, like everything I do is pretty interdisciplinary. So my undergraduate work was interdisciplinary. I did a degree in English, but then I did a double honors, and my second honors was in interdisciplinary studies. And I wrote an undergraduate thesis on Thucydides and the history of the Peloponnesian War. And it was really about political theory. And then when I went on to graduate school, my graduate work is all in literature. But I can remember from the time I arrived in graduate school, my interest was always in Shakespeare as a political thinker. So it was in early modern political thought and Shakespeare's engagement with early modern political thought. And so I was always studying political thought and political theory. And so then when I came to the Great Books program at St. Thomas and taught there, I ended up teaching a lot of political theory, a lot of philosophy. That is what I do in my day-to-day. I teach a lot of literature too, but I teach both. And this is also the case in my research. The first book I wrote was called Shakespeare Between Machiavelli and Hobbes, Dead Body Politics. I was really proud of Dead Body Politics. That's Dead Body Politics. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. But that book is really about literature and early modern political thought. And I think as a scholar, the area, the field that I've kind of traced out for myself, I think properly speaking, my field, I guess, is politics and literature, which is really kind of a subfield of political science more than it's a subfield of literature. So I occupy this kind of weird territory, this sort of in-between space all the time in all of my work and my writing and my teaching between political theory and literature. And it always means that I think I always feel kind of out of place, and I'm always I'm never really I don't know if I'm ever fully welcome wherever I go. I'm never really where I should be, or asking the kinds of questions that are expected, I guess. And you see that, I think, manifesting itself on the channel. Partly it just makes total sense because a lot of these videos, when I started out, I was just making videos for my students. And they were about a diverse range of things, the kinds of things we study in our Great Books program. It's a wide variety of stuff, kind of a hodgepodge. But that's also the nature of the things I'm interested in. I'm interested in literature, but I'm also interested in politics and philosophy, like a lot of people are. And that maybe brings me a bit to the channel and what I'm trying to do. Kind of the founding premise of this channel is that video lectures are really boring. That's my belief. And the reason for that is generally because the kind of lecturing we do in classrooms does not translate very well to video. So when you record a lecture, when you record someone delivering a talk or giving a lecture, generally speaking, it's very boring. At least I struggle to pay attention to those things. Maybe you have an excellent attention span or you're super interested, but I'm, an academic and I'm into some pretty nerdy stuff, and sometimes people are talking about exactly the kind of stuff I'm interested in, and I still struggle to pay attention. And so I was really trying to, when I first started this, I was trying to find ways of let's say leveraging there's a good business word for you, leveraging the capabilities of YouTube, the things that YouTube does and that YouTubers do really well, and trying to put those to academic purposes. Can I use these techniques, the jump cuts and whatnot, in order to teach online? And as this kind of ad hoc experiment has sort of grown into a channel, I've always been trying to figure out exactly what the channel is going to be, or is it supposed to be. Maybe it's worth thinking through with you what it is I'm doing here, because I'm always wondering myself what it is I'm trying to accomplish. And I think I have a fairly clear idea now. I've got a number of goals that I think are kind of interrelated. I think broadly speaking, there are 5 things I'm trying to do. The first one is defend the humanities. That's what I'm here for. The humanities are almost always under attack, reputedly in decline. held in contempt by certain parties, and they always need support, because I believe pretty deeply that this kind of education is liberating and good for people and good for communities. It is good for the public to have this kind of education. And so a big part of what I try to do is to demonstrate the value of this kind of teaching, like what we can learn from it, and to hopefully engage people in this kind of learning. The other thing, the second thing, I guess, that I really believe I'm trying to do is support students and teachers. That I hope the videos are useful to my students, to other people's students. I've heard that they are. People have reached out. I always appreciate when people reach out in comments, or sometimes over email or Instagram, different ways to say like, they've really found value in the videos and it's really helped them understand things, helped them study for their exams, or they've shared it with their class of students. And that means a lot to me, because that's a big part of what I'm trying to do, is to provide resources for other humanities classrooms. The third thing that's always been really important to me, and that is maybe one of the real experimental dimensions of the channel, is really trying to kind of augment my own teaching and expand the boundaries of the classroom. Oh, truck outside. I know that I hear from my students that they watch some of my videos, and sometimes the videos are on things that we are talking about in class, and other times they may be on things that we studied last year or studied 2 years ago. And it's an opportunity for my students to revisit those things, or maybe to study those things from a different perspective, or think about them in a new way, think about them in a new context. And I know even graduates of the program who sometimes get in touch with me and say, I've watched the videos. Hey gang, I hope you're doing well. And so it's a nice way, I think, I like this about it, that I can still talk to those people, right? I can still talk to those people who used to be in my classrooms, and now they're out living their lives, but they can still think about Plato or Shakespeare or Thomas Hobbes or whatever. For a long time, I've been interested in whether or not these digital technologies, these social technologies, can be used to kind of strengthen the classroom. And I don't know, it's an ongoing experiment. One thing I think I'm learning over time is that often, in the early days when these technologies for, message boards and Facebook groups and things like that first started to be used in educational contexts, we would ask a lot of the students, for the students to do a lot of the work, right? To post things, to share things. So what I'm sort of finding and kind of experimenting with now is like, if I'm the one who does the heavy lifting, if I'm the one kind of creating the content, right? Like making the stuff that we can communicate about and laugh about and talk about outside of the classroom. I do the heavy lifting, and maybe that works better. And then the last two are kind of related, and they're both about like reaching different audiences with my work, with my teaching, my research. I think, in academia, we talk to our students in our classrooms. Sometimes we go to conferences or we write papers and we disseminate our ideas in that way. And what I found through YouTube is that I'm able to communicate and connect with all sorts of different people with whom I couldn't have connected with otherwise, with whom I couldn't have connected with whom I could not have connected otherwise. There we go. And that's been really great. That's been really great and positive. And so, again, it's kind of expanding the boundaries of the classroom a bit. Part of what I've been trying to do is to bring, my classroom, what it's like to be in a classroom with me, to the internet. And it's not the same. I don't do as much jump cutting in the classroom. But there's kind of some common elements, to the questions we're considering are certainly the same. It's not quite as dynamic because there's no back and forth, right? Between me and you on here, or not as much, maybe in the comments, things like that. But that's harder. But allowing me to connect with other people, that's really great. And then the second part of that, or the fifth thing, depending on how we're counting, I think is, also potentially reaching potential students who might want to study this stuff, might even want to study this stuff at St. Thomas with us. That's one of my ambitions, the sort of the hope that there are people out there who really love reading, who love thinking about big ideas, who are interested in philosophical questions and want to study that stuff. And I believe strongly that we need people to study that stuff. It doesn't have to be everybody, but there is a portion of the population who's very good at that, and we need those people to develop these capacities, develop these skills. And so my hope too is that this allows me to reach students who might think about maybe coming to study with actually the real thing, come and sit in on the classes, come and actually learn this stuff in a classroom, study this stuff yourself with me and my colleagues. That's part of the hope too. So that's the state of the channel. The state of the channel is strong. It's we're approaching 10,000 subscribers, which is kind of a crazy thing to think, at least for me. I know that's very small in YouTube terms, but I am not often in situations where I'm speaking to 10,000 people. And so that's kind of amazing. I'm about 9,000 and what are we at? Let me check the number right now. 9,015, 9,020, what is it? 9,026. So this might be a good time now to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And maybe now is also a good time to talk about what I'm doing here, like right now. Because as I mentioned, I think I'm trying to show up on YouTube a bit more and get into the rhythm of producing a bit more content, maybe over the summer, maybe going into the fall. We'll see how long I can keep this up. But the thing is, the videos I'm making now they're getting a bit ridiculous. I'm like walking through the woods with a camera and a microphone with a blazer on, and they're taking a long time to research, to write, to edit, to film, all that stuff. So I thought, all right, I don't know if I can make those more quickly. So maybe I should do a different kind of video, like a series. So I'll do a series like this where I'm just talking to the camera in addition to my regular kind of absurd videos. I've got a new video out right now on the social contract on the channel. You should check that out. It took me a while to do that one. So I thought I'd do some videos like these where I'm just talking to the camera. I've got some things to talk about that they aren't really suitable for, like, they're not my typical sort of stuff that I do videos on. So I thought they might be better suited to just me and you having a conversation. So that's the idea. We can just hang out and I'll talk about books and you'll watch me on your phone, just talking about books on the telephone. That's the premise. And we'll see. I've kind of committed. I've told myself, let's do 10 of these. 10? That immediately sounds like a lot. As soon as I said it out loud, I was like, 10? 10 is a lot. But I'll try. We'll try to do this for 10 weeks. Can I do it? 10 weeks. Can I do it? You will find out. So that's all for now. I guess I'll see you next week. And I'll see you there. Talk to you soon.